In this video, I'm going to show you how you can add a number of learners at once to your cloud using a spreadsheet. This video is intended to be used when you're first of all setting up evidence for learning and you haven't already got any learners in your cloud. So I've now logged into the admin console and I'll shortly export a spreadsheet from the admin console and I'll use that spreadsheet to be able to add in all my learners' details. I actually also want to be able to, at the same time as adding in my learners, I also want to assign them to their classes and maybe some other groups as well. So to do that, first of all, I'm going to hover over system data towards the top left and then click on groups. So because I actually want to add the learners into their class groups at the same time as me adding them into my cloud, I'm actually going to click on group sets towards the top right. And then I'm going to click on create on the right hand side. And then I'm going to enter my first name of my group set, which is going to be called classes. And then I just click on create. So what a group set is a group set is a collection of groups. And when we do the import later, I'll actually create a number of groups for my classes. And if my classes were named after colours, I might have a blue class, a red class, and a green class. And those groups would all be within the group set called classes. And learners can only be within one group within a group set. So now I've entered a group set called classes. When I export the learner's details in a moment, there'll be a column which is called classes, and I'll be able to enter in for each new learner that I'm adding to my cloud. I'll be able to also enter in the class that they're going into. I'm now going to repeat that process because I also want to record which year group the learners are in and also which pathway. So I'm going to create two more group sets now. So first of all, I'm going to click create again at the top right. And the second group set that I'm going to create is going to be called years. Once I've named the group set, again, I just click create. And then I'm just going to click create again. And then the final group set that I'm going to create today is going to be called pathways. And I just click create. So I've now got three group sets. And the next thing I can now do is go to my learner list and export the learner's details. So to do that, we hover over system data at the top left and then click on learners. If you're ever using a spreadsheet to be able to add new learners or to be able to update your learners at a future date, then you always export your current learner list, and in this case there won't be any learners, and then import that updated spreadsheet back in. So the thing we're going to do now is then click on export towards the top right. You can leave include archived learners unticked, and we're just going to click export at the bottom right. An Excel spreadsheet will then open on your computer. So the first thing I'm going to do is click enable editing towards the top and in the middle. So I'll now just go through each of these columns and just explain a little bit more information about them. So the Cloud ID column in column A is crucial because what the Cloud ID is that will be the unique identifier for each learner behind the scenes in evidence for learning. You'll then, when you're adding in your new learners, you'll leave the Cloud ID blank for all the new learners that you're adding in the details for. And when it is imported back in the spreadsheet, evidence for learning will assign all the new learners with a unique Cloud ID. In the future, when you export the learners' details and the learners are already in your system, then the Cloud ID will be displayed. And it's vital that the Cloud ID is therefore not changed at all, and also the Cloud ID and the learner's details remain intact. So in a moment, I'll paste in a number of learners and all their details at once so you can see how the completed spreadsheet looks. But just as an example, I'm just going to enter in manually the learner's first name that I want to add in the relevant column. So in the first name column, column B. The next column is for the last name for the learner. So let's call this learner Joe Bloggs. In terms of date of birth, that does need to go in a particular format. So it does go in terms of date, month, and then year. If you don't want to record the date of birth or any of the other information, then you can just leave the cell blank. And that's the same for gender. But in this case, I'm going to just show you what you would put in if you want to record the learner's gender. If it's a male, it's an M for male. And if it's a female, it's an F for female. The next column, the email column, is not currently in use, so therefore you can just leave that blank. In terms of the external ID, it's up to you if you want to use this field. Some schools have used this as another sort of unique identifier that can link into your student management system. So in that case, you may want to put it as the learner's UPN number in here. So as an example, I'm just going to be putting the UPN number there. In terms of the parents' details, each learner can have up to 2 separate parent accounts in terms of their login details. You can always add this information in later, so you don't need to add this information in now if you don't want to. And if you do decide, though, you do want to add this information now, no information will be sent at this point to the parent at all. This just means that when you do come to enable the parent services and you come to activate the parent's accounts, the parent's details will be in the system. So if you do want to add the information in, then in parents 1 first name, you'll add the parent's first name, parent 1 last name, self-explanatory, parent 1 email is their email address. And then again, if you did want to add the second parent's details in, because they were needed for any particular reason, a separate login details to their account, then you also enter that in the relevant columns. The archive column is used in the future if you want to archive learners when they've left your school, but also in this case, you're adding learners for the first time, so that won't be relevant. In terms of the classes, this now with the 3 columns that we've now got, we've got 3 added columns because I've added in 3 new group sets. So if you decided just to add in 1 group set, for example, for classes, then you obviously wouldn't have the columns for years or pathways. But what we're going to do in the class column, what I want to enter is the full class name of the class that I want to put Joe Bloggs in. So in this case, I'm going to put him in blue class. So he's going to be in blue class. And what I would say in terms of the year, instead of just putting 6 or 10, it's best to make it clearer for yourselves if you write year 6 or year 10. So in this case, I'm going to put this learner in year 6. And in terms of pathways, I'm going to say formal. So, and it's up to you. The name of the actual groups will be what's in the actual cell. So in this case, what we're going to create is a blue class within the group set called classes. We're also going to create a year 6 group within the group set years. And the same, we're going to create a group for formal learners within the group set of pathways. So as you can see, I've now pasted in all my new learners' details. I've added in terms of the relevant columns, if they're going into which class they're going into, as well as which year, and also in terms of which pathway. Cloud ID, we've left blank for all the new learners that we're adding into the system. I have also saved the spreadsheet in a name and in a location that I'll easily be able to locate. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to close the spreadsheet down and then return back to the admin console where we're going to import it in. So I've logged back into the admin console. I'm then going to hover over system data at the top left and then click on learners. And this time now I'm going to click on import towards the top right. I'm then going to click on choose file to locate the spreadsheet on my computer. So I'd located the spreadsheet on my computer. I clicked on it and clicked open, and then that brought me back to this screen here. What I'm then going to do is click upload at the bottom right of the pop-up window. I'm now on the map column heading screen. And what this is saying is that it's going to update information in the cloud that's above the box. So in this case, it's going to update the cloud ID with information from the column cloud ID in the spreadsheet. So because you've used the spreadsheet and you haven't added any new columns in or changed the name of any columns, everything above the box should match what's inside the box. And in this case, it will. It is worth having a quick check through to check that's the case for the boxes at the top of the screen. We scroll down a little bit further. Where it says add learner to group, we can leave that as ignore in this case, because we're not adding learners to groups in this way in the video. What we are doing at this time is creating groups within group sets and adding the learners in. So we do need to make changes to this section where the group set section. So where it says classes above the box, we change what's inside the box from ignore and we just match it up. So we click classes. We do the same for years. So we change it from ignore and we make sure it just matches. Pathways, we change it from ignore to be pathways. So again, in each case here, we've got what's outside the box matches what's inside the box. And again, if you only created one group set for classes, then obviously you'd only have this first section to be able to change. So the next thing I'm going to do is click on next at the bottom right. So we're then on a map group set screen. And what it'll say is it'll have a list of all the groups that you're added in to your spreadsheet. Where it says ignore in the box, we're going to change it from ignore. And in each time, it's going to create a new group and it will create a new group in the group set that that group was in. So in this case, we want to create a new group in classes, which is correct. Pink class, again, every single time, you're just going to click in the box and change it from ignore to create a new group and it'll be in the relevant group set. So I've repeated that process all the way down, changing everything inside the box from ignore to create a new group and it will be in the relevant group set. So at the very bottom then, I'm just going to then go and click on process at the bottom right. We then get taken back to the learners page and we can see a green success message showing how many new groups have been added and how many learners have been added. In this case, no learners have been updated because we've just added all our new learners in. We can see the learners details here being displayed. And if we want to also go and check the groups, we can then hover over system data at the top left and then come down to groups. And as you can see, we've now created a number of groups within the group sets, and I can see how many learners I've got in it within each group. And as ever, there's a number of other guides and videos available within the EFL Online Resource Centre, and always feel free to get in touch with us if you've got any questions or we can help in any way. You can email us at services@theteachercloud.net.